Another reason why people may enter into debt or go out into credit would be if they want to maybe purchase something very significant, or maybe they want to improve their home, for example. They want to buy a car like you did, then they may enter into debt. For example.
Why do you talk about that? I bought a car. Okay, I bought a car. Yes, I will talk about that. To pay off your debts or not to pay it off, and how should you approach paying debt? That is the question we are answering today. Because I grew up in a context whereby we're taught that avoid debts because they are bad. And using the same approach here in the UK may not work, because unlike Ghana, where interest rates are over 20%, here in the UK, they could be even under 5%. So you ought to have the right approach towards debt. And to help me in having this conversation is a very personal friend, and my personal accountant, and a chartered accountant in the person of Mr. Larry Boafo. Thank you and welcome to Diaspora Careers and Investments.
Thank you very much, Shadrach, and thank you for inviting me onto your channel, which
so
I'm a very big fan of.
So to start with, what would be your definition of what debt is? What is debt?
Debt is simply money owed to somebody, a company, or an institution.
So once you owe somebody, it means that you've got some debt.
Yes.
So is debt then a bad thing?
No, debt can be good or bad. In fact, I call it a double-edged sword as well. And if I borrowed £100 from you, Shadrach, I know you're a good person and you wouldn't charge me any interest on the 100 quid. That would be a very good form of debt. Reason being, I could use that £100, go and pay something, or use it to invest in another thing where I'll get more returns on it and pay you back your £100. That would be a good form of debt. Now, if I went to a high street bank or online and I applied for a credit card and they give me the same £100, they will most likely than not charge me interest on it, which means I'll be paying them more back than I would to you. So comparing the two, that would be a worse form of debt than yours.
So you've clarified good and bad debts based on the interest rate. What about, I mean, I know we've spoken about this in the past, whether debt can also help you generate some income.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, and I know on this channel, you're very particular about improving the finances of us, the subscribers, and the wider community. And a lot of people who want to get into property, for example, go into debt. So they go and borrow money from the banks, for example, and they use that money that they've borrowed from the bank to then buy a property, which tenants, they expect to then pay more than how much they've borrowed.
So mortgages can be a good form of debt.
Correct.
If how much you are generating from the buy to let or from the house is more than the loan you are paying.
So that's one form of good debt. Another form of good debt is if I was starting a business, for example, and I went to the bank to then borrow money, or can you give me £1,000 as an example. I go and then I buy laptops, I buy that and that to start my business. I start getting clients, providing them my services, and once I provide my services, I expect to make more money than how much I borrowed off the bank. I then pay off the bank for buying the laptops and everything, and that's also a good form of debt.
That's right. That's right. You had quoted Trump as being the
king of debt.
The king of debt. And he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Well, I like to think he's a billionaire, isn't he?
I don't know. If he's not too far off. But he proclaims, or he says that he's the king of debt. And as you've mentioned, he's a business mogul, really. And a lot of business people use debt in finance and whatever they do. And it's not just in business, in our personal lives, really, we can use debt. So a lot of people have different credit cards, for example. And if people have credit cards, a lot of these credit cards, after a period of time, start charging you higher interest. Your APR will be very high. And if you have multiple credit cards, for example, you can decide to consolidate your debt. Sometimes it can even be multiple credit cards, a car loan, another type of loan, even another personal loan.
Actually, we'll come to that. So let's talk about the causes of debt. Why do people get into debt to begin with? I actually met someone who told me that, oh, Shadrach, I'm told we have to, get some debt in order to get good credit score. And that's why some people go for debt. Is that true? And what are some of the causes of debt actually?
Yes, so some people who you're not part of this group, I think, Shadrach, unfortunately are on a low income. And
I have a low income, bro. I have a low income.
And with cost of living rising and rising so much, if people's sources of income do not increase or do not match the level of inflation, that means that their spending power will really reduce, i.e. how much they're able to spend using their income will reduce because of the rising cost.
Reduce the grammar.
So if people's incomes do not increase to match the level or the rate at which the cost of living is increasing, that means if they earned, for example, £1,000 in a month, if that money doesn't increase with inflation, then if, say, they bought bread for £2 2 years ago and bread now costs £2.50, that means they may not be able to buy the same number of breads that they used to purchase 2 years ago. So then they'll be worse off, really. And that can be one reason why people enter into debt, because they may be on a low income. Another reason why people may enter into debt or go out into credit would be if they want to maybe purchase something very significant, or maybe they want to improve their home, for example. They want to buy a car like you did, then they may enter into debt. For example.
Why do you talk about I bought a car? Okay, I bought a car, yes, I will talk about that.
Then they may enter into debt or credit.
So let's do it this way. So we can mention the reason why people get into debt and how they can deal with it and how they can reduce that debt. And then later we can talk about how to, deal with all these debts. So obviously for low income earners would be to whether to find other streams of income to increase their incomes, or to reduce their expenses so that they have surplus, or they even earn enough to meet their day-to-day expenses. But what about those who have purchases coming up? People want to buy a car or buy furniture, furnish their. How do they pay for it without getting into debt?
Well, without getting into debt, then I suppose if they've saved enough, then they can venture into their savings.
All right.
If people have investments, which I know, again, you're very particular on this channel, then they may tap into that. But I wouldn't recommend that, really, unless, of course, they've invested for a long time. Because if you invest and then you're hoping it will be a medium to long term. A form of investment. So maybe your savings, if you don't want to enter into debt or credit, then tap into your savings to go and buy these furniture or improve your kitchen or whatnot. However, you can actually enter into credit or debt that is 0%, which will almost be like you're borrowing money from your friend, for example. And there are loads of these credit cards available. Now you can get 24 months 0% purchases, interest rates credit cards, where you get these credit cards for however much that the bank decides to lend you, depending on your circumstance. You can buy a furniture or whatever car you want to buy, but obviously you need to be very disciplined in terms of repaying whatever you've borrowed before the 24 months or however months you get expires, and that would be a good form of debt.
No, that's really good, because that's exactly how I bought my car, at 0% interest. So I applied to MBNA. They've got a good credit card, so I got the money from MBNA and then used that to buy the car. But because it's 0%, it means I don't, for 24 months, which is 2 years. So in the next 2 years, I don't pay any interest on it. And the plan really is to pay it off so that I've got a car at 0%. I didn't say I got a car for free. I said I didn't pay an interest on the loan for the car. And so I just bought a car which I know I can pay it off in 2 years. And I know, one of the things, people really want to do is to get a car. And sometimes they get into some financing, which is also a form of debt, really.
Yeah, I mean, people get into PCP or HCP. Difference between the two is one of them, you own the car once you finish paying off the loan. The interest rate tends to be a lot high on these PCPs and HCPs. What I know some people do is they take personal loan, and then which has a lower interest rate, and then they pay off the car straight away, and then they pay the bank or whatever financial institution for the
why don't people go for these 0% cards to pay the car rather than going for whether a personal loan that will come at an interest rate or PCP where you don't own the car, or even HCP which has a high interest rate?
The reason maybe some credit cards do not, again, depend on your circumstance, will not have a higher credit limit for you.
That's right.
Whereas obviously you're in a very good position, so you can get a very high credit limit to purchase a brand new car.
Oh dear, it wasn't brand new. It wasn't brand new.
Credit cards do not offer a lot of people or many people a high credit limit. And I know you touched on people building their credit. You need to borrow, unfortunately, in the UK. In order to start building your credit score, because that's the only way that banks or institutions will know you're actually credit worthy. And if you're borrowing for the first time or one of the very first times you're borrowing, you may not get a high credit limit to purchase a car that's costly.
So you have to start from somewhere, isn't it? Like it can be slowly. So let's deal with the other reasons why people also get into debt. Whether so we've spoken about people who don't earn enough to get, other streams of income or reduce their expenses. If you're going for a car or, a furniture, a big purchase, then consider whether you get a 0% purchase credit card or to go for a personal loan or to consider other alternative forms of payment which have lower interest rates. What about those who are thinking of, home improvements, for example, even buying a mobile phone? How do people finance those without getting into bad debts?
I mean, I watched one of your videos on your channel, how you purchased your iPhone. And personally, that video actually helped me because I moved my savings from one bank into another bank that had a higher saving rate.
All of the £2 million.
So which helped me. So thank you, Shadrach. So good. One could tap into their savings, for example, to do that if they didn't want to get into debt. But I think people should really tap into the 0% credit cards. Rarely will you come across a 0% personal loan. Rarely will you come across, but credit cards will have 0% for 24 months, 12 months. So if people can tap into that, or if that's not possible, try and consolidate your debt where you just get a very low interest personal loan, where it's not like a credit card that your minimum payment will differ or vary from month to month. But with a personal loan, you'll be paying X amount for X number of months, and that's also another way to go.
No. These are really good ideas, and I think it's already bringing some thoughts to me. But let's finally talk about those who for life happens, and then they get themselves in a position whereby they have debts which they may be struggling to pay, or even not struggling to pay, but they are losing touch of it. And I'm sort of in that position whereby I've got 3 credit cards, a personal loan, because I think I know how to manage these debts. But sometimes you tend to be forgetting, how can I, manage these debts so that it doesn't get out of hand? What are some of the strategies from you?
That's a very good question. And I cannot overemphasize the need and importance of budgeting, which I know, again, you're very keen and particular on. We should all really budget on a regular basis. I do that on a monthly basis. If people want to do that on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, is up to them. But please budget latest every month, or the longest period should be every month that you should budget. By budgeting, you can stay on top of your credit card payments, whatever loans, because you have all the incomings from if you work or however you get your money, and then you have your expenses or your outgoings, your payments. You have your credit cards that you need to pay off, so you can never miss a payment because you'll be paying credit card 1, credit card 2, credit card 3. You can then reduce on certain expenses that may not be too significant, particularly if you have to pay off certain debt. And that, once you pay off your debt, then you can go and entertain yourself in other stuff. So once people find themselves in debt, I would say, please budget. Number 1, please budget. Number 2, make every effort to list out all of your debts or all of your credits that you have. Now, you can either decide to pay off the higher interest rate credit or debt first, in which case, once you finish paying them off, you have the lower interest rate ones to tackle. And that way, you'll be paying off your money quickly. And that way, you won't be saving money, but at least you'll be getting rid of the higher interest ones.
No, that makes sense.
If that's not possible, I think I've already mentioned it. Number 3, you can consolidate, which can probably, in some circumstances, be a better way of dealing with the debt that one is already in. Reason being, if you've got 50% APRs, 40% APRs on different credit cards, and you get a personal loan that's maybe 5 or 4% APR, you can then pay off all these credit cards and focus all your attention into paying off that personal loan.
No, that's really good. So I guess it's the idea of whether arbitrage or choosing sort of, so you go for a cheaper loan to pay off the higher loans. But
yes.
But actually, if you have, well, that would be a difficult one, because if you've got credit card debts and the banks know that you've got debts, then you stand a lower chance of getting a personal loan at a cheaper rate.
Yeah, a very good question again. But again, that's why maybe people should sign up and subscribe onto these credit report agencies, which, depending on everybody's circumstances, they will tell you, oh, you have these offers and deals available to you. So correct. A lot of times people don't stand a better chance in terms of getting a better loan to pay off their already existing ones, but there are almost always cheaper debt out there.
Absolutely,
almost always cheaper debt.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
If you think about it, if one has 40%, 30% credit cards, they may get a credit card that's maybe 20% APR, and if you average everything out, you're better off paying off all the other credit cards and using that 20% in this example to pay off them, and then just pay off that 20% credit card. And another thing that people may also consider would be to do a balance transfer, which is get another credit card where you can transfer all your debt onto, and then just, hopefully now there are 24 months 0% balance transfer credit cards out there. You can just pay off your debt within the 24 months where you don't pay any interest on.
That thing is a savior. You have used it in the past.
I have used it actually, I think just 2 years ago or so, where I used a balance transfer. I had multiple credit cards. I just transferred everything onto, yes.
You had... He's got money, man.
I transferred everything onto this 0% one, and I focused all my attention. And this goes back to my first point on budgeting. Because what I then did was I used a spreadsheet. I budgeted, okay, I have 24 months to pay off this debt before I come out of my 0% balance transfer. Each month I'm going to pay X amount, and by 24 months I should have finished paying off the credit.
No, that's really good. And at the moment, NatWest has a 36-month 0% balance transfer credit card, which allows you to transfer all your debts on various credit cards onto them. They don't charge anything, and you have up to 36 months to pay it off. And I think the limit for that is about 10,000 or so. So you can transfer it to them. You don't pay anything. And within the 36 months or the 24 months, or not everybody gets the 36 months, whatever you get, you can clear it off. And that is a really good way to get cheap loans. But if it goes beyond that, I think they charge 2.99% of whatever amount you are transferring to them. But that can still be better off than, I mean, 2.99% is like, well, 0.03.
Depending on how much.
You know, and that can be better than, you know, keeping these monies on their credit card and not being able to clear it off at the end of the month, because it keeps building and every month it takes money out of your pocket. So no, I think these are really good stuff to share, and I have certainly learned a couple of things to apply in my own situation. Do you have any final words?
I think if people, debt can be good or bad, but if people can really maintain their debt or credit levels in such a way that they can manage and maintain it, then that's good. I know we've mentioned about getting credit cards, getting personal loans that have very low interest rates. That may not be suitable for some, or for other people, they may not even be eligible to even get credit cards at all. What do such people do? They can start from somewhere. They can even start by getting a credit card that's got a very high interest rate, but only ensure that you pay off your debt at the end of the month. In which case, you won't suffer a high interest payment if you pay off your debt. And by so doing, you can then get on that ladder. And we are all on this journey, really, on this credit journey, really. So if people can really try and manage their debt and not maybe just off our conversation, go and get credit cards when they don't have to get credit cards, because credit cards can be a necessary evil, really, and it can lead people into so much stress. And I just wanted to even touch on when I said consolidating your debt. Some people do this for their own mental well-being. When people sometimes know that they have debt, they suffer mentally and even emotionally, just thinking, I have so much debt.
That's why I can't sleep at night. I'm Honestly, there's so much debt to pay. No, but that's a very valid point you raise. No, that's good.
People can suffer from that. So do not get into debt until it's absolutely necessary to get into. And if you know that you benefit from it, and I think that's the key point, if it won't put money into your pocket, then don't stay away from it.
No, Larry, I mean, that's a fantastic way to end this conversation, and there's no point to protract it. Because you talk about the mental health benefit of not having debts, we're going to record another video on whether or not to pay off your mortgage, and you want to hear it from the professional himself. So check out that video. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, kindly click on the subscription button as well as the notification bell so that you get that video once it's uploaded. No, absolutely. Thank you very much, and
thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's your handful of money, yeah, guys. Catch you in the next video, and I hope you've enjoyed this one. Consider subscribing to this channel and click on the like button. Let me know how you are managing your debts. What have you learned in this video? Until the next video, adios. Stay blessed.